go ahead, skip ahead to that, the expansion draft. Now, you've done all this work, you've hired the people, you've done your lists. You should be in prison for some of the deals you made in connection with the expansion draft. Talk about that.
Well, we had two objectives. Was to build the best team we could right away and to get surplus draft picks. It was an exhausting process. We went through a lot of mock drafts, and we would apply our scouts' opinions, and we seemed to get better with every mock draft and being facile with the rules and with the players on those teams. And we had these really neat, as I said, tools that our software engineer put together, and I could click a button and it would change the matrix if a team was going with 3 and 8 or 3 and 7 or 4 and 4, so on. And then we would apply some analytics, and but you've got to be careful with that because it's you learn that not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that counts can be, or not everything can be counted.
Counts, yeah.
So we applied it, and then we got down to the actual process, and we had favorable rules. We had to hit it out of the park. Vegas needed to give that, they needed a chance as a market to embrace hockey, to be successful. I thought the league was really prescient in giving us good rules to work with, and we had to execute.
Okay, so let me interrupt you. Prior expansions came in 2 teams at a time. Protected list was usually, 12 and 6 or 12 and 5? So protect 12 forwards, 5 defensemen, 1 or 2 goaltenders. 2 teams picking off the bare bones that are left after that protected list. You came in alone, Vegas came in alone, and each team got to protect only 7, right?
Yeah, it was 3 and 7 or 4 and 4, whatever.
Depending on how many defensemen you protected, 7 or 8 players. Yeah. So you got the 9th best player at worst off every team in the National Hockey. You had to pick from every team.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about how that went, because you managed to extort, in a good way. You managed to go to teams and say, we're taking this guy unless you give us. So, for example, the Minnesota transaction. They wanted to protect Matt Dumba. They exposed him, but you took another player in return for a first-round pick and Alexander Tuck. Did I get that right?
Well, it was a little bit different than that. They were, we agreed that we would take Tuck, and we got Holla for a third-round pick.
Holla, that was it, yeah.
Yeah, and they played very well for us last year. They brought a lot of speed. The strategy going in was to, obviously be as prepared as we could be. I split up the teams with Kelly McCrimmon. I gave him 15 teams to work with all year long, and I took the other 15. I thought it was too many teams for one guy to handle. And then the thing I was worried about the most was a massive redistribution of players before the actual draft, that we would get to the end of the season and teams would look at their rosters and figure out how they could deal with another team, trade a veteran player. In Tampa did this. They traded Drouin and got Sergachev, and suddenly they didn't have any exposure issues. And we were trying, what we wanted to do was, there were some teams with cap exposure, there were some teams with player exposure, and so we split up the teams, we worked on it, and we wanted to somehow get in the way of this redistribution of players. And so we started doing sort of secret deals with teams. We thought there were 10 teams that we could talk to that had to do a deal with us, and 9 of them did a deal with us, but it wasn't disclosed to anybody. It was a conditional deal. We told them, if you do the deal with us, we will, it's a conditional deal. If you don't do anything else from now until after the expansion draft, our deal holds. If you do something, then our deal's off. And they kept it quiet. And it really had the effect of sort of freezing the market. Nothing happened. Tampa was the only trade that happened.